Will Southern Miss surprise in 2024? It's Locked On Sunbelt.
You are Locked On Sunbelt, your daily podcast on the Sunbelt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Today's episode brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. All right, we all know that I have an affection for the Fighting Will Halls. And let's get to Southern Miss, as not a lot is expected, at least from the odds makers, for this Southern Miss football season. It is interesting, I find it. Mike Desimo says the same thing. Will Hall says the same thing. It's time to win. And both are in precarious situations. Although Mike and his Cajuns are really loaded, it's the quarterback that's the issue. Haven't been able to keep one healthy. Same can be said for Will Hall and the Southern Miss Golden Eagles. They were supposed to have Tate. That was the guy. And it just didn't work out. Had a fantastic season last year at East Mississippi Community College, right? Last Chance U. Now he's at La Tech. 33 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, 3,300 yards. That would have looked good in a Golden Eagles uniform. And if you can't get the quarterback situation set, it's really tough to figure everything else out. Everything comes up from that. You don't need it to be spectacular, but you need it to be consistent. This is a guy, Will Hall, who won games with Frank Gore as the quarterback. That's how far down the depth chart there was. That's when Frank Gore became the superback, or Frank Gore Jr., as the case may be. And they just haven't been able to figure it out with Tate going down. They've gone after quarterback, after quarterback, after quarterback, and now we got, FSU transfer Tate Rodemaker coming in. And, can Southern Miss overcome the odds? So, again, we go back to FanDuel, and the over-under for Southern Miss is 4.5. That's 4.5 wins. All right. Odds to win the Sun Belt plus 3,800. That's when these came out first time around. There is a discrepancy slightly between Southern Miss and ULM. Southern Miss is plus 3,800. Say Georgia State right above them plus 3,400. ULM is plus 32,000. So there is a slight discrepancy. But, I mean, Southern Miss went to a bowl game a couple of years ago. And they've just not been able to build on that since. And a lot has to do with, again, the quarterback. The defense was fantastic. A couple of years ago, Frank Gore Jr. was really good. Now we know that Will Hall has, given up his duties as the offensive coordinator, and they did a little bit better last year, including coming in to Cajun Field and taking down the Cajuns. And so there's a lot going against Southern Miss, right? Again, new quarterback, got to replace Frank Gore Jr. Season already, it's Black Cloud's a little rough, but, trying to, how to deal with an MJ Daniels, situation, which is just tragic on many levels, but, something that's going to, they're going to have to deal with all season long, because that's it's not something that just gets put away because it happened a few months ago, by the time the season rolls around. So that's going to be something that, again, it's a coach and players dealing with real life tragedy and not like a football injury. And our hearts and obviously condolences go out to the Southern Miss and Golden Eagles family on that. But that's something that they're going to have to be able to move on from. And that's not the right way to put it, but just how to deal with it. And, play football. And so, again, the odds are long, right? The one thing, because expectations are so low, and we'll get to the schedule at the end, but because the expectations are so low, what is considered a good season? What is overcoming the odds? Can you compete with, the leaders in the clubhouse per se, at least the way I see it? Texas State, the Cajuns, and Arkansas State. We don't know, again, big questions on Troy, big questions on South Alabama. We do think that ULM is going to be better, although that's not going to be, they should be better. I don't know how much better. They'll be tougher to beat. I'll put it that way. And so you do have some room, while the Cajuns should be good, their quarterback situation is up in the air. And we just don't know. And maybe Gio Lopez takes what he does from the bowl game instead of spring ball, and he's everything that is expected out of him at South Alabama. There is room for Southern Miss to take advantage of some question marks. But obviously the odds are a little bit long. We'll see. I mean, they could be one of the surprises. I would say, without looking at the schedule and doing this, I would take the over, because I'm an unabashed homer when it comes to Will Hall and the Southern Miss Golden Eagles. Sorry, Cajun fans. I think, they'll figure it out. Are they going to win, 9-10 games? Probably not. But could they surprise with 7 or 8? Obviously, that's a huge difference. If you were 4.5, and even if you go 8-5, right? Even if you get to a bowl game and lose, which would be disappointing, obviously. But boy, could you go 9-4, 8-4? 7-5 would be a good, 7-5, and then you go 8, win a bowl game. That would be good. So we'll do that towards the end, or at the end. When we come back, obviously it's on Rodemaker's shoulders. He is the guy that has to make the offense go, and we just don't know a whole lot about him outside of the fact that maybe Florida State was left out of the playoff because he got hurt. We'll see. Let me tell you, when we'll do that, we'll talk about the quarterback for Southern Miss right after I tell you about Gametime. Gametime is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Gametime app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying Major League tickets. You get those flash deals. You can save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or event. You get that all-in pricing, so you're not fooled when you get the final bill. Toggling this feature shows the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. You get the panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference if they are not the lowest price, and your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Gametime. Download Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Dave Schultz, Lockdown Sunbelt, your team every day. We're talking about the Fighting Will Halls and the Southern Miss Golden Eagles, and everything is on Tate Rodemaker's shoulders, and we just don't know how good that's going to be. He was, the Florida State quarterback. He was recruited and, was expected to play and didn't play all that much. He has just over 100 attempts in 4 years of college. He has an extra year, maybe 2, because he played in 20. So that's the COVID year. I don't know if he redshirted or not. Let's see what he is at. Listed as a junior there. Is he a junior? I should have looked that up beforehand. Sorry about that. Southern Miss Tate. Because if he's not, that's where it could be interesting. Let's see here. He's listed as a redshirt junior on the Southern Miss website. Okay, so he would have another season because he's got the COVID year, and he may have redshirted in there, obviously, as well. So we just don't know. Okay, last year in his limited play, 52 out of 56, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. That's outstanding. Tough to do better than that. Completion percentage, 57%, and 510 yards. Averaging 9 yards. I'm going to guess an attempt is pretty good. Rating is 163.1. Don't ask me about the ratings. Those things give me issues. Let me see here. I want to see what that is. We're looking at ESPN. I don't know what the average is. Oh, it says it's yards per pass attempt, I guess. All right. And so the pressure is on Tate Rodemaker. Here is why maybe you get, I'm not saying his name right. I think it's Rodemaker. Correct me if I'm wrong. I looked it up, and I'm not hearing it correct. But anyway, obviously the pressure's on him. And usually, when you have the running backs and the offensive line, like the Cajuns or Southern Miss, when they had, Frank Gore Jr., that can alleviate some of the pressure on the quarterback. Tate's got to take the charge. This has got to be his team. I don't know if he's been named the starter. Someone can tell me that. I presume he will be the starting quarterback come the fall. Whether that's announced heading into camp or a couple weeks into camp, we'll see. But he's got to be the guy. And can he live up to, I guess, the billing? But wasn't he just like a 3-star quarterback out of high school? And he still got recruited to Florida State. So they had to see something that they like. I mean, he is the typical, quarterback. Although he says he only weighs 196, 6'4", 196. Yeah, you can put on a little bit of weight. I can help him with that. But he's the guy. If he may be in a case where he needs to have a little bit better than just an above average, an above average season, right? Whereas, if Jordan McLeod is 10% less than he was last year, because he's got a lot of help. All right, he's got a lot of help. He does not need to be as good as he was last year for Texas State to be good. But if he is as good, they're going to be fantastic. Same thing I'd say with the Cajuns. They have a lot of help. Whoever is the quarterback for the Cajuns, they have a ton of help offensively and defensively. The quarterback does not need to be the star. At Arkansas State, Jalen Rayner kind of has to be the star. All right. We'll see what happens at South Alabama and so on and so forth. But here, Rodemaker has got to be the guy. He's got to be the one to lead Southern Miss, and that's a lot on his shoulders. Now, to combine this with the last segment there, last chance for Will Hall, you do have a situation here. If he is, first of all, if he's great that he's going to get drafted, well, then they've had a great season, right? If he's going to have this spectacular year where either A, he gets drafted, or B, he's going to transfer somewhere at a Power 5 situation, they've had a good season. So we'll worry about that. However, we'll worry about that later. However, if he has a good enough season where they do win, say, 7 games, 8 games in the regular season, and he's coming back, I would tend to think that would obviously going to keep Will Hall to begin with and give him the same quarterback 2 years in a row, which is an anomaly. Usually don't get that these days too often. It it doesn't happen. So maybe he can save him. Again, it would be interesting to see, what if he has like a little bit of an average year? They get to a bowl game. Does that save him? Does it get, you see the potential, and for whatever reason, they're not quite as good as they should be, but they're better than people expected. Does the idea of Rodemaker coming back save Will Hall? Right, is what I'm trying to say. Obviously, if he's very good and he's coming back, Will Hall's not going anywhere. All right. A, if he's very good, that means Southern Miss was very good. And B, if he's not going to a Power 5 school or wants to get drafted or going into the draft and coming back, that's also going to be a plus for Will Hall. So there is a ton on Tate Rodemaker's shoulders, and it would be nice to know I'm saying his name correctly. I think it's Rodemaker. All right, let's take a time out. It is, the elephant in the room, so to speak. Is this the last chance for Will Hall to lead the Southern Miss Golden Eagles? We'll do that when we come back. All right, we finally hit 1,300 subscribers. It was not the best of all weeks because, we did hit 1,300 subscribers, but we're trying to get it to 1,500 before the end of the summer, and you need 25 a week to do that. So come on, people, step up. Please let people know. We're going to try and do a bunch of media interviews leading into Sunbelt Media Days. Things are changing, and I'll get around to announcing that a little bit later on. But we're going to see if we can get some beat writers or radio announcers and others to join us, podcasters to join us and talk about the Sunbelt here, as we are just a couple weeks away from Sunbelt Media Day. So please subscribe. Let your Sunbelt fans, friends, and family know. And I appreciate it. I do appreciate it. 1,300 subscribers is fantastic. We need to keep growing it, try to get to 1,500 before August, or by kickoff on August 31st. All right. Let's talk about the last chance for Will Hall right after this. Well, not right after this. Coming up next. Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. All right, so Will Hall has clearly said it. Said it at spring. He's come on the show and said it. Needs to win. All right, if they don't win, they're going to move on. You don't see that kind of, I'm not sure obvious is the right, honesty would be the right word, honest assessment of the situation. And it's nice to see that you get that, because you don't. He's mentioned everything that he had to overcome and rebuild. As it was pretty good and then turned into a mess quickly. Did get him to a bowl game in year 2. But he knows he's gotta compete. And again, it's tough because, it's overturning, things have turned over. Maybe he's got his quarterback. All right. Maybe he's got his quarterback. And does the team come together, and I mean, it sounds so crass, dedicate the season to MJ Daniels, that kind of thing. Does it bring the team closer together? Because, people just, you just don't usually deal with this kind of loss on the football field. Losing a quarterback to a knee injury or a running back, to a shoulder injury is commonplace, and everyone understands this. What happened to MJ Daniels is just awful. You don't want to use that as a crutch. You don't. But it might bring guys closer together, knowing, the cliche, how fragile, life is. So, can they come together and can they exceed those expectations? Now let's go over the schedule because, again, not a lot is expected, right? When you are second to last, when the only team you're ahead of in the odds is ULM and you're 4.5, there's just not a lot expected. All right. So you start off with Kentucky. You can put that down as a loss. They're not going to be favored in that one. They're 0-1. You get Southeastern next, and you get USF. USF is a little tricky because they got better after they didn't look particularly good. Although defensively they held Alabama in check, they end up being good towards the end of the season. That's a big ball game. That's one of those games that can, it's tough to say make or break a season, but it can certainly head Southern Miss in the right direction. Because the next game is not going to be easy. That's going to be at Jacksonville State. So Southern Miss has a real shot, I think, to start anywhere from 3-1 or 1-3. And if they're 1-3, all we're going to hear about is the hot seat that Will Hall is on. 2-2, you win the 2 home games, you lose the 2 road games. Okay. But it's, boy, if you can go 3-1 to start before you get into conference play, you got a good shot to have that kind of season. All right. And again, we'll go by, home and road and favored and such like that. So we'll say they are 3-1 because that none of those games are going to be necessarily easy. Some of them are kind of must wins. You kind of have to beat Southeastern. USF is not going to be easy, and neither will Jacksonville State. But say you're 3-1. Do you beat the Cajuns at home? You get a week off after Jacksonville State. You get a home game against the Cajuns. You beat them last year. In fact, you beat them twice in a row. And, do you get them, and now you're 4-1? You go to ULM. Are you 5-1? You had Arkansas State at home. Are you 6-1? I mean, that's going a little nutso right now, right? We've kind of gone off the deep end, but we'll say James Madison is a loss, 6-2. Marshall at home, that's a winnable ball game, 7-2. San Marcos is a loss, or Texas State has lost at San Marcos, 7-3. You got South Alabama at home, that's 8. Troy on the road, 8-4. And it really all starts in that first month. So maybe you don't have as great as Sun Belt, where you go 5-3. You don't have as great as Sun Belt year as maybe you'd like. But if you start out, even if you start out 2-2, you win the home games. And maybe can you compete with Kentucky for 2.5, 3 quarters? And here's the good thing. Usually, we look at trap games and letdown games. All right. And if Southern Miss is finally the rivalry that the Cajuns have been looking for, you don't have that game the week after Jacksonville State. You get the week off. Now, when I go on vacation, I always check out early on in the week. They can't check out looking forward to the week off. But boy, if they are 2-1 heading into that Jacksonville State game, knowing you have a week off, and knowing you have the Cajuns at home, again, that is the kind of ball game that can lead Southern Miss to a spectacular season. Now, you got to beat the Cajuns. Now, if you go 3-1, you got to beat the Cajuns at home. And then I don't think everything else is crazy, right? I mean, beating ULM at ULM is not going to be as easy as it sounds, but it should be a win. Arkansas State at home, if you're 5-1, you're going to be favored against Arkansas State at home. James Madison on the road is going to be tough. Marshall at home should be a win. I'll give Texas State the win on the road. That's going to be tough. You beat South Alabama at home. And then Troy on the road. That's going to be a tough one. Although if you are 8-3, we'll see what Troy is. But if you're 8-3 heading into the Troy ball game, you actually may be favored on the road. Not by much, but you may be favored, depending on what Troy is. So very early on, September is absolutely, and August, as the case may be, set the tone for Southern Miss. Go 1-3, or God forbid 0-4. Will Hall may not make it to October. He may not make it to that Cajuns game because you have an off week and you could make a change there. Go 3-1, and now everyone's going to be saying Southern Miss is a contender. They beat Southeastern at home. They took care of USF at home and went on the road and beat Jacksonville State, which again is not going to be cakewalk. All right. Even if they're 2-1, they may not be favored on the road at Jacksonville State. Jacksonville State and Rich Rod will be favored in that ballgame, most likely. But that is the turning point of the season right there. Especially even what happens if you lose to South Florida. You go on the road and beat Jacksonville State, you can stop it from spinning out of control. But all of a sudden you lose to South Florida if you've beaten Southeastern, and then you lose to Jacksonville State. Again, you get the off week, and then it could spin out of control. Forget about who the coach is. Then you all of a sudden you lose to the Cajuns, and now instead of being 4-1, you're potentially 4-1. You're 1-4. Now, I think Southern Miss will surprise. 8 wins would be a spectacular season. That's almost 100% of what they're expecting. 5-3 probably won't get it done in the Sun Belt, but that would be a spectacular season if Southern Miss is able to do that. All right, we'll see if we can line up some media members. Again, beat writers, radio broadcasters, podcasters. We will try to get as many as I can and put it in the can, so to speak. We are doing a little bit of traveling here over the next couple of weeks, and I don't want to be without an episode on a daily basis. So we'll try to have one each and every day over the next couple of weeks, and then eventually I will let you know what is going on with me personally. It's all good. All good. We're going to still continue with a Locked On Sunbelt. Everybody have a great week. Thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks for getting us to 1,300 subscribers. We need to get to 1,500 before August 31st. All the best, and I will talk to you again on Tuesday. You've been watching Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day.